So yeah, both of you have individual coaches. Paige more recently with the like after the Open of this past year,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yep.
Gabe from Misfit, and then Andrew, you've been with Evan from Training Think Tank for a pretty long time, right?
Been with them for like 3.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you? I don't know the answer to this question, so it'll be interesting. What were each of you doing prior to working with an individual coach, and what was like a major difference that you saw when you did switch over to having sort of a structured program and a communication with somebody?
Great question. So before, I was doing just everything. So I'd go into the gym, I'd do the class workouts, and I'd look at comp train, and I'd do comp train stuff. And then maybe someone else was doing a fun workout, and I'd join them on that. It was really stupid. Like, I burned out so hard. So after our 2015 season, when we didn't make it, I kind of stepped back and I was like, what can I do to get better? So someone that was on my team at the time suggested Training Think Tank. So that's been really great. And it's actually taught me that not less intensity, but like less volume
Right.
in a day can actually be super beneficial.
Right.
And you don't have to go so hard and do like 8 Metcons in a day.
Right.
So right now, I mean, I maybe hit 1 to 3 Metcons in a day, focusing a lot on lifting at the moment, but not always. And then recovery, like not even just like the tools Paige is talking about, but like just different stretches and different accessory work that I would have never done before.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. When you start CrossFit, obviously you drink the Kool-Aid, you want to go to the class.
All the Metcons.
Yeah, so, and, I did classes all the time, and I loved it. I love being with the community in general, so that was easy, but I always wanted to do more, so I added lifting into it, and I was the same way. I would look through Comp Train, I would look through all those free online programs that are out there. I followed a little bit of Misfit before I even knew it was Misfit. And then in 2016, when I qualified as an individual, the owner of my gym decided that she would help me and do my programming for me. So that took off really, really well. And I went from barely making it to regionals and being in like 29th and still getting an invite to finishing 14th in the region. So I had a lot of success in that first year. So we decided, take it into another year, which took me to Timberwolf. And the 6 of us still kind of followed our own programming. So I was still working with Kalina from our gym. And then after the season, we decided to take a step back from that because the gym was building and growing. So I decided to follow the blog from Misfit through the Open. I had a strong feeling I would qualify, so I knew that if I just had structure, that's really all I needed. And then from there, I signed up with Misfit, and I worked with Gabe leading up to regionals and then through the game. So It's been a lot of change, but a lot of really good change. And same thing, I love structure. I love routine. I've really gotten into the Misfit mindset. And, you have a set warm-up, a lifting piece, a Metcon, an interval piece. There's stuff is so different and varied that, you're not leaving one thing out.
Right.
Especially the bitch work. So I actually, when I was following the blog, I kind of avoided it. And then, like right now, especially, I've really kind of dialed it in, and I embrace it. So that's come a long way because, monostructural pieces, the rower, the bike, running, that stuff wasn't my strong suit, but you got to embrace it somehow. So
Yeah, and I think that kind of comes back to the question beforehand about what's kind of a separator for people like yourselves to people that want to be as good as you. I do think a lot of people do fall into that because it makes sense. If I train more, if someone else is doing 2 Metcons and I do 4, I should get better than them, right? But you don't really have that intensity to put to every single piece, especially with how the old format was with the Open. The Open's literally 1 workout a week. You have to be able to push hard for 6 to 15 minutes, usually something like that, right? It's not about who can, at the games, that's certainly more of a war of attrition of how many events can you do in a day and maintain things. But most people should not be thinking about how can I train for the CrossFit games. They can't even make it to regionals, right?
Yeah.
And I
Old regional.
right. Or even, you know, same thing with all the sanctioned events now. Like it's, you know, 6 workouts over the course of 2 or 3 weeks. It's still about intensity. How can you put it down in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
So I do think, that.
In addition to that too, if you're not like, consistency is huge, you know. If you're bouncing from misfit to comp train to something you made up yourself, you're leaving a lot out, because most likely you're biased in doing the things that you like. So I have, you know, 1 to 5 pieces a week with misfit that I dislike, but guess what, I have to do it because it's going to make me better. There's movements that I'm not good at, and I need to do them 1,000 million times to get better at them. So, you know, you have to force yourself to do that stuff that you don't want to do.
Yeah, I think that is a mindset shift too, because a lot of people, pretty much everyone that I know of, started CrossFit because it was fun, right? And very few people started CrossFit with like, I'm going to make money doing this or be very competitive at doing this. Maybe they had that in the back of their mind. They still enjoyed doing it originally. And then I think there's kind of a curve where the better you get, I'm assuming you guys can attest to this, the less and less time you spend on things you're really good at, right? And you may have an entire...
Yeah, this doesn't make sense.
Right, you probably have an entire days where it's like you have an A, B, C, D, and like most of those things you really don't want to do, right? Like it could be a long endurance piece, or it could be snatching, or it could be ring muscle ups or strict handstand push-ups, whatever it is. And that's something that I see a lot with people who are more in that aspiring range. Is there's kind of 3 categories really. There's the one people that just like don't do it, right? If they're bad at handstand walking, they just don't do it, and they're kind of accepting they're never gonna be very good, right? The second group of people is what I think is more common, and that's the people that if they're bad at handstand walking, they will do it, but they'll do, again, the class and then something from comp train and then like a 10-minute EMOM after all of that stuff to like kind of, again, just check it off the box. But what Paige is saying of like, hey, if I'm really bad at 30-minute rows or salt runners, do a ton of that stuff, like that's my focus for the day. It's not like I'm going to do all this other stuff that's kind of cool and CrossFit-y, and then I'm going to like just tack on my weakness at the end. Like that's sort of what you're focused on.
Because then people make excuses too. Well, like, I didn't do good at handstand walking because I was tired from all my other stuff.
Right.
It's okay.
Right.